My name is Jason Sharp. Today I'm going to show you how to create yourself a Gmail account. Now, like in all my screencasts, feel free to pause this, rewind this. I tend to talk kind of quickly, so if I'm going a little too fast and maybe you're trying to follow along as you go, feel free to pause it and go from there. So, first off, we're going to go up to our address bar and type in gmail.com. Okay, it's important to have that .com, otherwise it's just going to do a basic search, and not a big deal, but it's an extra step that you'd have to do if you just typed in Gmail itself. Now, we're going to go up here to the top right-hand corner and click on Create an Account. Okay, first off, you've got your name, and this is pretty basic. Type in your name, Jason Sharp. For those of you that may not want people to have access to your last name, you could have something like just Jason S. That would be perfectly appropriate. You do have to have something in that box typically. But since I'm going to be using this more for work and for maybe for school, I'm going to just keep my regular name. Now for my username, this is where it's going to get a little bit trickier because Google is so popular, and Gmail specifically is so popular that just about every name out there has been created at some point. So if you're creating one in the year of 2014 or later, most of the stuff's going to be taken. So let's try a couple of variations, for example. So I'm going to say Jason Sharp. See if it gives me anything. Nope. There's already tons of Jason Sharps available, so it's giving me plenty of other choices. Let's maybe try a year. Jason Sharp 80. I'm sorry. 80. Nope. Somebody's got that one as well. Now, I'm going to try to maybe get a little bit more creative, especially if you're doing something like jobs, names perfectly appropriate. Be very careful about any sort of nicknames or anything that might be considered to be inappropriate. I have seen people in my library have websites or emails like Hot Mama or maybe some drug-related emails. You don't really want anything like that. If it's personal stuff, not a big deal. But just know that if you're going to be giving this email out to somebody, they might judge you based off of that. So I'm going to say something like Jason Sharp Whitehaven, for me working at the Whitehaven Library. And that one's available. So we're going to do that one. We're going to go down to create a password. Now, the password, if you notice over here, you have to use at least 8 characters. A character, by the way, is a letter, a number, a symbol. So it has to be 8 of something that you type. It also says don't use a password from another site. That's not entirely true. You really, especially if you have, you could have a dozen different accounts and maybe even more than that. One for your Facebook and one for your Gmail and one for your Yahoo account. So you really don't want a different password for each one of those. But you also want to make it something where it's not so easily hacked. So you're going to want something like letters and numbers, something maybe with an exclamation point or some sort of symbol in there. So I'm going to give you a couple of suggestions, and I'm going to type them up here just so you know. You won't be able to see it if I start typing stuff in here. So we're going to go up. You could do something like the first letter of every word. So if you have a favorite phrase like Bond says you only live once. So Bond says you only live once. And I would put some sort of number in there. So let's say 2010. And it's not going to let me type anymore, unfortunately, just because of this. And then maybe you could have an exclamation point. I'll back this up a little bit. So 2010. So this would be considered to be a relatively good password. I'm going to retype this one. You could also have something like maybe a child's name and their birth year. It's not considered to be a great password, but honestly, for the most part, if this is kind of your first account, you don't need to worry about people necessarily hacking it. There's probably nothing on there that's particularly important. So let's just say I'm going to type in the name of a relative of mine. I'm not going to actually tell you what that is. And I'm going to put their birth year, or maybe the last 2 numbers of the birth year. Common words are too easy, so it actually didn't like that one. There we go. I had an exclamation point at the end because it didn't like my common name. There we go. And confirm the password, just type in the exact same password at the top. If you don't do that and try to move on, passwords don't match, try again. It's very nice about it, by the way, if you notice where it says try again, please. Now, birthday. This is going to be important to remember if you ever need to get back into your account. Although I don't recommend giving somebody your actual birthday. There's really no reason for them to have it, so why give it to them? So I usually do something like January 1st, something like a 1970. You don't want to do, and you can do anything, you could do the decade that you were born. You don't really want anything that's going to be too early. So if you try to do like 1990 or 2000, you have to at least be typically 18 or 20. So I usually go a little bit earlier. And gender, put whatever one you want. Now here's where it starts to get a little bit hard because you need to have a mobile phone number in here. So I'm going to type in a phone number that won't actually be mine. Let's see, 409 123 4567. And by the way, it's probably because I typed too many numbers. Let's see. It's still not mine. Don't actually type a false phone number in here because they will probably try to call you and verify this, and you don't really want that to happen. You don't want somebody else getting that call and gaining access to your account. So type your real one in, but for the purpose of this, I'm not going to type in my own. Now, it says current email address. If you're creating a Gmail account, you probably don't have an email account already, and that's perfectly fine. Usually leave that blank. Next step is to go on down to the default homepage, and I would uncheck that, especially if you're using it on a library computer. You don't want it to change from the default homepage from the memphislibrary.org. You want something, and if you've got your own homepage set on your own computer, it's not really necessary to have Gmail as your, Google as your default homepage. And here you're going to try to verify it. If you can't really read it very well, and don't worry, that could be the case, it could speak it to you. You could, this is just kind of explaining it, or you could reset it. So get a new challenge. So it's going to give me a new one. That way you can do something where you can read it. So go ahead and type them. 244 588 36, and then I think you have to use a space in there. 5264. There we go. And we are in the United States. So I'm going to agree and move on to our next step. So what we're going to do from here is we are going to go ahead and type this one in. And don't worry if you can't see anything, I've actually blocked this out so that you won't be able to. I would select something like a text message. You could do a voice call as well. Text message is a little bit easier because you don't have to go grab a pen and write something down. And if you're in something like a library, you won't be able to do that anyway. You won't be able to really answer it very well. So we're going to go on and continue. And then it just gave me a code. So looking on my phone, the code that they sent me, and by the way, don't try typing this code in because it's not going to help you. 415840. All right. Now it is done. So if you notice, I can add a photo. I don't really need to. Go on to my next step. And I have my new website, Jason Sharp, Whitehaven, at gmail.com. Now I can continue to my Gmail. And it takes me to my account. So keep an eye on these screencasts because I will have plenty more for you. I can show you how to get in and actually use your Gmail account, send emails back and forth. There's going to be some more in the pipeline. So keep an eye, and I hope you found this useful. Thank you, and have a great night.